typical, isn't it? You get the camera all set up, perfect view across the bay to the Opera House, and then a boat decides it's the star of the show. Whoa, steady on. Sorry about that, guys. The gimble's having a bit of a moment this morning. Think it's still waking up. Anyway, g'day. Good to have you here. I wanted to say a massive welcome to everyone, and especially a huge thanks to the new subscribers who've joined the crew lately. Seriously, I appreciate it immensely. If you are new here, I just do these relaxed walking videos around Sydney. So if that's your vibe and you want to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button and wander along with us. Anyway, this is First Fleet Park. Looks like just a bit of grass for a lunch break now, doesn't it? But back in 1788, this was actually where the first settlements hospital was set up. Just a bunch of tents, really. Can you imagine? Rough way to start a new life, I reckon. This whole area is the traditional land of the Gadigal people, and you can really feel that history here if you stop and think about it for a sec. Anyway, enough of the history tour. Let's keep moving. Just going to cut across here and up to George Street. Anyway, look at all this outdoor dining along the road here now. It's actually pretty decent, eh? Not that long ago, this bit of George Street was just, well, it was just a regular road full of cars and delivery vans. But they opened it up for the cafes and pubs a few years back, and I reckon it's a massive improvement. You've got the Fortune of War just back there, the oldest pub in Sydney, and even they've got tables out on the bitumen now. Gives the whole place a bit of a better vibe, doesn't it? Much better than dodging traffic while you're trying to have a yarn or a bit of lunch. Actually, guys, before I forget, could you do us a massive favour and hit that like button? If you're anything like me, you probably mean to do it at the end, but then life gets in the way and you completely forget. It actually makes a huge difference with the old YouTube algorithm and helps get these walks out to more people who might enjoy a bit of a wander. So yeah, if you're enjoying the stroll, cheers for that. It really helps the channel out. And hey, if you've actually had a feed at any of these spots along here, or if you've got a favourite hidden gem in the rocks, definitely give it a shout out in the comments. I've had some cracking recommendations from you guys in the past, and I reckon sharing that kind of info is what makes this whole thing worthwhile. Always good to hear what's actually worth checking out, eh? Anyway, where was I? Right. Food. Actually, no. Best we keep moving before I get too hungry and end up back at the pub. Right. So, we're on Argyle Street now. It's one of the oldest streets in the country, actually. Back in the early days of the colony, this whole area, the Rocks was a bit of a wild place. Sailors, convicts, gangs. It was pretty gritty. You can still see it in the stonework, eh? A lot of these buildings have been standing since the 1800s. It's got that real old world soul to it that you just don't get in the rest of the CBD. Anyway, the real draw card for this bit of Sydney is the history. You can feel it in the air here. Back in the day, the Rocks was a bit of a nightmare for the authorities. It was a maze of narrow alleys and blind corners, perfect for the push gangs and sailors who didn't want to be found. Most of the sandstone you're looking at in these buildings was actually quarried right here on the spot. It's funny, now it's all fancy cafes and galleries, but 150 years ago, you probably wouldn't want to be wandering through here with a full wallet, I reckon. Anyway, speaking of dodgy corners, have a look at these Argyle stairs coming up on the right. They look all heritage and nice for a photo now, don't they? But back in the day, these were a notorious spot for the pushes. Now, if you're wondering what a push actually is, it was just a local word for a street gang back in the 1800s. It's a dead set Aussie term, really. Think of them like a crew or a mob. Each push was basically a tribe of tough young blokes who ruled their own patch of dirt. And you didn't want to be the poor bugger they were pushing around. You had the Argyle Cut push right here, the Gully push, even the Fortune of War push. Each one had their own territory, and if you wandered onto the wrong street, well, you'd be lucky to keep your teeth. Now, have a look at these walls as we head into the shadows. This is the Argyle Cut, and let's be clear about one thing. Every single inch of this sandstone was hacked out by hand. We're talking about convict chain gangs starting back in 1843. These blokes were picking away at this rock for over 20 years. Imagine being shackled to the man next to you in the stinking Sydney heat with nothing but a hammer and a chisel for company. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? The poor buggers were literally bleeding into the stone. They used to say the cut was built on blood and bone, and looking at those drill marks, you can dead set believe it. It's a hell of a contrast. We're just wandering through for a bit of a look, but for them, this place was a nightmare. Anyway, keep an eye on the walls as we go. You can still see exactly where their tools hit the rock all those years ago. It's a monument to hard yakka if ever I saw one. Right, just have a look back at that for a second. It's a hell of a sight, isn't it? You've got this massive canyon that took convicts decades to hack out by hand. And then right over the top of it, you've got the approach to the Sydney Harbour Bridge. It's a funny bit of engineering, really. You're standing in the 1800s, looking up at the 1930s. That road above us, the Cahill Expressway, it's carrying thousands of cars a minute, and most of them wouldn't even realise they're driving over a piece of history built on blood and bone. It's one of those spots where Sydney's layers really show themselves. Anyway, let's keep moving. We're heading into Millers Point now, and the vibe is about to change again. The Garrison Church. It might look peaceful enough now, but back in the day, this was the official church of the Redcoats. We're talking the 50th Queen's Own Regiment. The blokes who were sent here to keep the peace and, well, keep the convicts in line. Imagine this street lined with soldiers in full red tunics, bayonets fixed, marching in here every Sunday. It's actually the first military church in the whole country. And it wasn't just for show either. They had to be ready for anything. Convict uprisings, riots, the lot. It's a dead set time capsule, this one. You can still see the regimental flags and the memorials inside. Anyway, keep an eye on the houses along here too. We're moving into the high society end of the hill now, where the wealthy merchants used to live so they could keep an eye on their ships down in the harbour. Now, as we head into Miller's Point, it looks a bit more refined than the quay, doesn't it? But don't let the nice terraces fool you. This patch of dirt has seen some things that'd make your hair curl. I'm actually planning a whole separate video on the bubonic plague that hit this exact spot back in 1900. It's a wild story involving government lockdowns and some pretty grim history. So keep an eye out for that one. Anyway, passing the Lord Nelson here on the corner, this is the real granddaddy of them all. It's held the oldest continuous liquor license in the city since 1841. They still brew all their own natural ales right inside the pub today. Dead set icon, that one. You know, it's a bit of a miracle this place is still standing. Back in the 60s and 70s, the government actually wanted to pull all these old terraces down and build big modern high-rises, sort of like what they did over at Barangaroo. But the locals here, they weren't having a bar of it. They teamed up with the Builders Labourers Federation and put on what they called a green ban. The tradies literally refused to pick up a hammer or a shovel to demolish any of these heritage buildings. It's the only reason we can still walk down this street today and see Sydney exactly how it looked 100 years ago. It's a proper bit of people power. If you've got a favourite restaurant we passed, or even some local history you reckon I missed, definitely put it in the comments below. I've had some cracking recommendations from you lot in the past, and sharing that kind of info is what it's all about. And look, if you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet, maybe think about doing it. To the 300 odd of you already here, cheers for the support. And if you forgot to hit that like button earlier, now's your chance to bail me out. It really does help the old algorithm get these videos out to more people like you. Don't forget to keep an eye out for that plague video I mentioned. It's going to be a bit of a dark one. Anyway, I'll leave it there for today. Thanks heaps for coming along for the stroll. I hope my yarning wasn't too much of a pain in the ear for you. It's always good to have a bit of company on these wanders. Well, just my luck, eh? Walk all this way and the Palisade isn't even open yet. Ah, well, Story of my life, I suppose. I reckon I'll just hang about here for a bit and admire this view while I wait. Anyway, thanks again for coming along. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers.